Welcome to this screencast in a series on process calculations, and the title of this screencast is Solving Systems of Algebraic Equations Using Excel. And the content is systems of linear algebraic equations, how they're written in matrix notation, and how analytical solutions are formed. And then the main part is a demonstration of how to solve these linear equations with Excel. Here is one example of a linear algebraic equation consisting of two equations with the two variables x1 and x2. And the first equation is 3x1 plus 4x2 equals 10. We have 6 terms, but this can be reduced to a series of 3 matrices. So this equation can be written as a times x equals y, where a represents the coefficients that are used to multiply the variables x1 and x2, while the right-hand side of the equation is 10 and 2, and we call the latter vector y. When this is solved analytically, what we do is say that x equals the inverse of a times y. And here is the inverse of the matrix A, which is 3, 4, 1, minus 1. And what we see is the inverse is 0.14, etc. And to get x, we just take the various inverses and multiply them with the values to the right according to the rules of multiplication of matrices. So to get x1, we take 0.1429 times 10 plus 0.5714 times 2, and that equals 2.5714. How is this done in Excel? What we want to do is to mimic ax equals y, and then we need two functions that are built into Excel. One is MINVERSE, which is used to inverse a matrix, and the second one is MMULT, which is used to multiply matrices by each other. So the first thing we need to do is to open an empty Excel sheet, and then the second thing we need to know is how to use this MINVERSE and MMULT functions. And I want to stress already now that a keyboard operation we need to do is to use Command Enter on a Mac in order to extend these functions to several cells, and on Windows it's Control Shift Enter that you use. So let's go to Excel. Here I have prepared an Excel sheet, leaving room for the matrices A, Y, the inverse of A, and X. The first thing I'm going to do is to define the coefficient matrix. And just to make it a little clearer, first here I want to get equation A, and here x1 and x2. And the matrix was 3 and 4 and 1 and minus 1. And the right hand side was 10 and 2. So what we want to do now is to get the inverse of equation A right here. So we just define the area where we want the inverse, and then we write MINVERSE, and then we need the argument is right there. We close the parentheses, and then we hit Command Enter, and we got the inverse. The next thing we do is to multiply the inverse by the right hand side. Then we want the results right here, and that equals MMULT. That means matrix multiplication. We need 2 arguments. First the inverse, and then the right hand side, y. We close, and we hit Command Enter, and we get the solution. So why use Excel? One thing is that the matrices are very easy to input. It's very easy to find the errors. It's easy to save the work, just an Excel file. And another thing is that it's very easy to share your work with others. For example, simply by emailing a file to a friend. So what we've done is that we looked at linear algebraic equations or systems of them, how they're written in matrix notation, how analytical solutions are formed, and finally a demonstration has been carried out how to solve these sets of equations with Excel. Whoops! I just found an error in one of my slides. Don't forget that the function MINVERSE should have an E at the end.